W. Welcome to WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. And today we are approaching a new year. And I figure, given that fact, we should have an expert on 2026, someone who's experienced it themselves. And we have that ability now because there's an Australian who's part of this space. She's Visora of Visora. My God, she's Visora of Visora Down Under. Hey, buddy.
Hello, hello. Sorry, hold on. Cat was stuck in my cord over here. How are you?
Whoa, what an absolute! Oh my God, is that a cartoon cat? Where
Nope.
do you find
She is
such a
just
thing?
the chillest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a
Oh,
cat that you could just
oh, she's a little baby. Oh, she loves scritches. My word.
absolutely.
So, if I understand correctly, it's 2026 where you are.
It is indeed
Hmm.
2026. Speaking of, you might want to bear with me a little bit considering it's 8 in the morning and
Oh,
it's New Year's Day. So I'm a bit tired, but we're in
fair.
2026. We
Well,
are
Happy New Year's.
looking back into the past right now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're looking back, and I'm actually trying to look forward very slightly. I'm wondering, can you tell us from your position in the future, is Donald Trump dead yet?
No, but there is a decent chance that he will be in about 5 months
Mm,
from your time onward.
fair enough. He appears to be dying from the hands up. It's sort of creeping
I
up.
would say the cankles up, really.
True. It's just reached the hands, and that's where we noticed it first. But then when you zoom in on the cankles, they are sort of flowing over the sides of his shoes.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And really, his pants, you can see the catheter bag in his pants. So, like,
sure.
it's literally all the way up from his cankles.
Well, it's so hard to tell because he wears the diapers. So I mean, he's always done that. So very difficult to see what's going on in there. It's best left to the imagination of your worst night terrors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't really want to imagine that.
Oh God, we really do live in hell. Um, is America at war with anybody else apart from all the people we've attacked in December?
In December specifically. Okay, so we're already at war with Venezuela. We can agree on
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
Um, Nigeria, we can agree on that. I don't know if we're
yeah.
at war with them yet. I think we're going to see growing reports of ISIS in like the Middle East, leading up to more military action against Iran. I'm like 80-20 on that one at the moment. There is a lot of a push to make that happen. And depending on what Russia ends up doing with Europe, which we're not going to interfere in, we might have to deal with Iran because they're going to be the ones causing more of an issue for the people that America cares about generally. Uh, and then there's China, which I don't really see us like starting anything with. I do see Chinese and Japanese tensions continue to rise, but I don't think if they hold a blockade around Taiwan, I don't think we're going to run it.
Uh, Jeez, is it weird that Ukraine actually gave me hope that we would wake up a little bit? Because what happened was white people got invaded and attacked by an empire, and I kind of thought that, hey, in America, at least if we see the whites getting attacked, that'll wake us up. But it didn't work. It didn't shake out that way. It really
It's
hurt when you
it
said the
does it
people that we
does
care about.
that used to include Ukraine. It
It
really
used to.
did.
It
Not
sure
that
did.
long ago, even. But, I mean, to
I
be
mean,
fair, you
yeah.
shouldn't be surprised, because the president has been friends with Russian and Italian mobsters going back to the 1980s. Like, everyone in New York knew this man was mobbed up since the late 80s. His name was Teflon Don because the
Yeah.
charges never stuck. It was his famous nickname throughout the 90s.
I didn't realize that nickname began before the presidency. Huh.
Yep, since the 90s.
I I have to say we know that the shelf life of Teflon then is about 35 years because
Give
the
or take.
Epstein files, they seem to be what's gunking up the works for him. Hey, speaking
On
of, oh no, go ahead,
I
please.
was gonna say on the Epstein files, like that also ties into Russia because
Yep.
like there's been quite a lot of evidence that came out in that, but generally you didn't need the Epstein files to know that. Russia has been kidnapping and selling Ukrainian children. Like online, there's marketplaces that list them by like eye color, height, age. So yeah, obviously they're in on that. Mind you, we just started selling human beings as America, so.
Yeah. Let's we've been doing some looking forward. Let's take a moment to look back. So with the Epstein files, it has to be acknowledged a couple of things actually. Thing number one, this situation, this cover up passed through the hands of Trump to Biden to Trump again. And they were all on the same side when it came to transparency or the lack thereof, into letting diddlers get away with it, basically.
Mhm. Those
Even
diddlers are your main
worse.
funders.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, apparently, and worse is that these the initial talk of politicians being part of a massive cover up of child abuse started with the internet's craziest psychos. Uh, and you know what?
It,
If you go back 20 years before that, 9/11 had a bunch of right-wing people, saying that, "Oh, it was an inside job actually, and the government's lying to us." And if you wash out all of the details that they were so sure about, the broad thing that they're saying was true. The government did lie
yes.
to us about 9/11. It wasn't Iraq at all.
There
Government,
was
is
also
covering up.
benefit for that. There was also a
Sure.
section of this that people don't tend to mention, and that is what agencies actually had offices in Building 7 and how much like information related to the dot-com bubble bursting and like economic issues that were kept in that building that were destroyed when Building 7 collapsed, the one that wasn't hit by a plane. That is the only part of that conspiracy that I think has any real credence to it. And to me, that's less of a conspiracy, more of opportunism. Like, oh, okay, well, those two got hit by a plane. Might as well start burning shit here.
Yeah, uh, and I just think that there is a tendency. I don't know if this is intentional or if this is like a form of social evolution for evil, but there is a pattern that is emerging here where right wing I'm sorry to pick fights with these folks, but right wing saps, people that fall for scams very easily, uh, accidentally create cover for actual conspiracies by exaggerating them and attaching clown facts to them,
If you
and then
look
we
at
don't take
the
it seriously.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the plan because all of this is manufactured. Those people who provide cover for these conspiracy theories do so at the behest of media that they consume. I mean, going back to the pedophile ring, that was QAnon. Now, I've been saying for years that every accusation from the right is a confession. All of them.
Mm.
I've yet to be proven wrong on a single accusation. To be fair, I even think that you're much more able to consistently track their actions based off of what they are accusing other people
Yes,
of rather than what they are admitting to doing. Um,
absolutely.
I mean, woke mind virus, I call that the Nazi zombie virus. They talked about a pedophile cabal running the government. We now have the pedophile cabal running the government. Uh, QAnon was manufactured through like several different tiers. I remember this because I was very in on it. Like I was dating a QAnoner at the time when it first launched. I broke up with him, but I used to make fun of him quite a bit. But these people were being fed partially real looking information, sometimes actually partially real, like breadcrumbs with a bunch of nonsense to get these people to try and connect dots that aren't there. Your brain is a pattern making machine. And a lot of that was built off of VR game devs and their discoveries while building VR games, realizing,
Hmm.
oh, well, if you don't tell the player the game ended, they'll just make new things up that aren't in the game because they'll think that they are. And we employed that on the American public.
So how do you think practically this conspiracy works? Do you think somebody sits down and says, "We need to come up with something crazy," and then introduce that to the population? Or do you think somebody says, "We need to find somebody who's saying something close to what's true, but too crazy to believe," and then boost that signal every way we can?
I think it is specifically the 4th Psychological Operations Group, founded inside of Fort Bragg, run by convicted Russian asset Michael Flynn, who is both highly involved in the current Trump administration and back in 2016. And specifically, his job was to work in the PSYOP department at Fort Bragg. Like, that was his specific job. Not to mention, he was arrested for, illegally working with Russia when a lot of QAnon's messaging also ties in with pro-Russian sentiment. Uh, Not to mention like other actors like Steve Bannon being involved in this. It came
Yeah,
from like MAGA 3X. So like
and apparently wanting to cover
generally
his own tracks.
that too, of course. All of this always involves them covering their own track. But there's a very specific group that you can look into when it comes to QAnon and those types of conspiracy theories. That group, by the way, now is so far expanded that QAnon is now the government. I mean, like, Trump himself puts Q drops in, like, Truth Social tweets.
Yes, he does, but my question is, where do you th how do you think these things come about? If you believe it's a specific group, like you said, Mike Flynn, um, doing a psyop, do you think that it starts with, Mike Flynn getting their best psyoper to come up with a script and then send that script out to the public? Or do you think they boost, people with existing crazy ideas?
Both. I can show you even some of what they've written. I just linked in the chat here, like documents that have come out of the PSYOP department, including 2 interviews that I'm not really like sure what those interviews are saying right now. I just like Googled Flynn PSYOP department and pulled up like from PSYOP to Mind War: The Psychology of Victory. That is an older one. We've been doing this since the 1960s, by the way. I highly
Mm.
recommend to people who haven't read it Naomi Klein's Shock Doctrine, because that details how we got into the brainwashing business. We've employed this in Argentina, in Peru, in Costa Rica, in Iraq, in the Soviet, like in Russia following the collapse of the Soviet Union. We did some of this stuff back home after 9/11. Fundamentally, it is shock that comes to the system from outside of it, whether it's like a war, whether it's economic crisis, and through that shock, messaging is pushed to shift the Overton window quite severely. I don't
Mm.
necessarily think this is one person who sits down and like develops how to go about it. I think that there is a council. There's like a group of people, not necessarily even just Americans, not necessarily even just state actors. Corpo's involved as well, I would imagine. Specifically, like consultancy firms like Boston Consultancy Group or McKinsey, who are responsible for generally like the most heinous atrocities in my lifetime.
So is the conspiracy theory that begins in 2026 that the Democrats are secretly kidnapping all the good Mexicans and shipping them off somewhere in the night?
I suppose they could make any kind of conspiracy they want at this point. Most people I believe firmly, don't think. They only think that they think. And
Yes.
as long as you have this that you pick up on your day to day, you're getting manipulated every time you open the glowing like rectangle, the glowing cube, like every time. No one's immune from this. So
Fair. All right. Give me your predictions for the manner in which Trump leaves the Oval Office.
I think there's two possible options, and they're about 50-50. I think one possible option is that he dies from his health issues,
Yeah.
which would be the preferable option.
Hmm.
Actually, this one kind of also ties into option two. They can kind of go either way with this. They could make, him actually die of natural causes and then try and go about doing things the normal way. I don't see that happening. Option two, and the second part of option one, is by a push from the more Nazi wing inside of the party, like JD Vance, who's owned by Peter Thiel, who's far more interested in stuff like that. Um, and I think that they push messaging both through right wing mainstream media. We know Vance has been meeting with Murdoch, both like the son and the father, and Fox has been significantly more willing than we thought to be airing stuff that's negative about Trump, stuff that is
Oh yeah.
very clearly incriminating about him. And that I think ties into that. There's also like just a decent chance that whether he dies of natural causes or whether the like Nazis redact him, they're just gonna blame it on the left anyway. Whether like he could die of perfectly natural causes and they're gonna be like the leftists Antifa killed him, and then
Hmm.
that's gonna be a push that they're gonna continue to use to get worse.
There could you could literally have Bernie Sanders sprint across the stage and dive in front of a bullet that's coming for him, take the bullet straight to the chest, himself die to save Trump, and then Trump has a heart attack and keels over, and they'd blame the left.
Literally, yes. And just to be clear, like fuck Trump, but I don't want him to die. I want
No.
that man to live for 1,000 years at this rate.
Yeah.
I want him to be the first Futurama head in a jar. Because as soon as he dies, things get worse for everybody involved.
I don't agree with that assessment. I think people will try to make things worse, and I think people will be more competent, but they will lack, in my opinion, the ability to keep the masses on their side. But separate from that, I also want Trump to stay alive because I think an alive Trump is our best chance at establishing that US presidents must face criminal charges when they break the law. Without
Also
that,
true.
without this obvious in fact, not even without this obvious example, but if we let him go to his grave without punishing him, the precedent for when a US president can be arrested is dead. There's
So
nothing you
a
can do.
couple things here. Couple things here. First, like I agree that I do think that there will be slightly more difficulty in like keeping the public engaged when Trump goes, but I think that a significantly larger portion of the public, specifically the ones on our side, the people who resist, the liberals, the people who are Democrats, the people who are anything like for to the right of essentially the online left, which, to be clear, I have quite a lot of issues with as well, broadly speaking. But I think a lot of people are going to go home because I don't think people hate JD Vance as much as Trump. I don't
Mm,
think that they're aware of how much danger there is following Trump. And I think that they're going to go home like they did after
interesting.
Biden got elected. It's also
Very
why I would
interesting.
rather Trump stay in power than we have a real election in 28 and then we put a Democrat in office because then we normalize everything that's been happening. We likely continue with a lot of it. Maybe we stop some of it, obviously. But then everyone goes home. So,
I mean, yeah. I think even in the worst case scenario, well, I don't know if never mind that. I think regardless, even if Trump makes it to the election, uh, to the next election, and he tries to run again without people 25th Amendmenting him, I think his brain is going to be so soupy by that point.
So was
I just
Hitler's.
yeah, I mean,
Look, like
Trump's
we're Pol Pot era now of Trump. Like
yes,
it is.
that's a more
It,
apt comparison.
yeah.
He's saying some crazy like the
At the
bulletproof
same
glass. Oh my god.
at the
Not
same
for the
time,
audiences. Oh, go ahead.
like he's saying all this crazy shit that you're paying attention to, but what's actually coming out of the government? Like NSPM 7, perfectly willing to claim that anyone who's not an outright Nazi essentially is a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
We still don't know what NSPM 6 is. That's still classified. Let me ask you, what are they not willing to say if they're willing
Yeah.
to call functionally everyone who's not outright a Nazi a
Let me
terrorist?
rephrase that. What are they not willing to say? What are freaking MAGA Republicans under Trump not willing to say?
Well, I can
They who
hint at what
said,
this is.
yeah. I mean, it's going to be, no matter what you and I say here, we will find out it's worse.
It's true. It will be
It's
worse. But
always worse.
and here's the thing. People always laugh at stupid shit that they do. The people making the decisions are not stupid. The people who speak, the puppets, the media figures, those are stupid. That is specifically curated that way so that we talk about Hegseth's incompetence and not, everything behind him that's happening. We talk about, Trump declaring fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction as if it's like a silly joke. Mind you, there's one penalty for smuggling WMDs. It's the death penalty. Who do they
Yeah.
blame for smuggling drugs right now? It's brown people. Who smuggles the vast majority of fentanyl into the country across the border? White people. Maybe we
Interesting.
flip an SPM 6 and have it come after 7. And then we look into what's being built in Utah at the moment, which is the first homeless camps. And then we look at the plan to open warehouses as processing centers near train hubs that was recently announced that will determine
Jesus.
which camp you're going to. Yep. So my prediction, unfortunately, is that the first death camps will come online between March and May of 2026. They won't call them that, but you will know. Like, the vast majority of you will know that's what they are. You won't have to, like, take someone's word for it. They will never openly admit it, but the idiots on Twitter will be making lots of jokes, stuff like that.
I think we ascribe to them often more agency than they actually have, the folks in
Mm-hmm.
power. I do think that the way they operate, I think what you're saying is correct with we tend to get distracted by how stupid somebody is, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think that they said, find me someone who can appear stupid and then pull off brilliant things behind the scenes. I think they broadly
That's the
know,
beauty of it.
put your
They didn't
idiots
have
up
to.
front. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. They didn't
Just
have to
put
do
your
that.
idiots up front. Let the scheming villains like your Bannons and your Millers behind the scenes where you can't really be accountable. Let them make the decisions.
Like
And the
Miller is a
people who are up
really
front
good
don't
point
care.
here. Yeah, because like we even know for a fact that Miller was responsible for the first few strikes on Venezuelan boats. Like that came out. That was public. He's the one that
And
made those decisions.
this is partially why I don't have as much fears about a JD Vance led government as I do a Trump one because I think the
J.D.
same
Vance is also the
villains.
puppet. Yeah.
Yes, he is. He's a puppet of Teal more than the other folks. But I mean, I think both he, Trump, anybody who's in the pilot seat there is not actually flying the plane. They are just going
No.
to be
Yeah.
there to collect the presidential library at the end. But I think no matter what, the villains of this thing, it's Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, the same people who were talking to Lula's opposition. Why can't I remember his name? Because I don't give a
Yeah, it's
but
true.
yeah,
Yeah. But fundamentally, I do agree with you to an extent here. I don't think that JD Vance is the end game. I think JD Vance is there to set up the pieces for the end game. The end
Hmm.
game being 2028. We have group of people saying, you know, I used to be a Republican, but look at Trump, like they're cucked to Israel, and the Republicans are, you know, weak, and then I hate the Democrats because they only care about their corporate funders, and then they're going to start sounding a little bit more like, you know, us in their economic populism, but they're going to lean nationalist, and it's going to be the America Party. It's going to be, you know, National Socialism. It's going to be people like Fuentes and Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who are going to be pushing that message. They've already been building to that. I said that like a year ago that this would be what the end goal for them is.
That
And
is such a good point that they're going to try to sound like us as well.
they're going to
And
try and pull
that's
from the left and the right.
yeah. And it's not a surprise because the economic woes are essentially what causes fascism. Oligarchy causes fascism. And the answer for those are progressive. So if you're suffering from economic woes, you're going to want to hear some progressive sounding things, even if you don't know that it's, progressive politics that's being winked at.
Economic
So, yeah.
populism.
Or
And
something that sounds like economic populism when they say we're going to cut taxes and they don't mention that it's for the people who already have billions. But
yeah,
instead
well,
what their audience hears is you're going to have more money even though that's not what they said.
generally, yes. This is going to be a change in pace from that because these are people who like Miller, Bannon, Fuentes to an extent, like Tucker Carlson, these types of people are far more interested in old school Nazism. They're also far more intertwined with Russia, who up until this Trump admin was the primary exporter in the world of right wing white nationalist Nazi specific propaganda.
Hmm.
Um, like even more than us in the last 10 years as America. It was primarily Russian driven. In fact, like you can also see the every accusation. Really, it's the global right is just one movement with decentralized cells everywhere. Like even in the UK, France, Germany, a lot of the stuff that they say these days, like it was illegal not that long ago. There's been a very specific way that they have gone about this. And mind you, I think it's one that we need to learn from and adopt. Because as they begin to criminalize things that we believe and how to say them, we're going to have to undo that the same way the Nazis undid it being illegal to say certain things. And the way that happens is Nazi says the thing, they get arrested, they go to court. 9 times out of 10 they lose, but 1 out of 10 case they win, which then makes it so all of their Nazi friends can then say the thing that was illegal in the case that they won. And
Yep.
we're gonna have to employ that strategy to make it okay to, I don't know, talk about empathy again, to say that, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
brown people deserve to live. Um,
Yeah. Uh, I think, unfortunately, this generation of left leaning folks, not unfortunately, but this generation of left leaning folks came from cultures where being left leaning socially was the correct way to be, as it should be, because it's the only thing resembling decency in politics. But that also means we don't really have fangs. We don't have claws. We don't have scars. We didn't have to get our asses whipped like our grandparents did. And now the ass whipping time is here, and we're finding out who's a talker and who's a walker, I suppose.
I'm begging you guys to stop coddling yourselves and each other like everybody. Um, Hot take, I know, especially on the left, suffering breeds growth. You learn how to cope with hard times by suffering through them. That literally, like, your brain tells your body, ow, that hurts when you put your hand on the hot stove, so you learn not to put your hand on the hot stove. We also need to stop coddling in how we speak, not just to each other, but to everyone else. First of all, civility is not useful. Civility is
Disagree.
permissive. It's
Absolute
permissive.
hard, full disagree, but do go on.
In our modern context, obviously, I think like civility can be employed well and usefully in certain contexts, but broadly speaking, when we're talking about the right, I think we should be not engaging in any civility. Personally, I don't see these people as the same kind of human as the rest of us. I think they were to an extent. I don't think they were born this way. I don't think anyone's born pretty much anything other than social. It's all social and environmental conditioning. Your brain is plastic. It can change, it can develop. And how it changes and how it develops is directly correlated to how you live your life and the conditions that you live in.
I think a ton of work has been put into a ton of money and work has been put into giving us that exact opinion, into putting that with amongst the progressives. You're not going to snark or insult your way into the populace behaving differently. And in fact, when I
Oh,
say
no, that's not
people
the
need to be
goal.
strong, I think you need to be able to smile at the devil. I think
I
you
agree.
have to take a page from the Black Panthers who hooked up with, the KKK at times because they were able to agree on a message of economic populism.
See, you misunderstand. I don't think that the lack of civility is useful in bringing the right over. First off, I don't think you can bring most of them over. The amount of effort it takes to de radicalize somebody is, at the very least, equivalent to how long and like the time and effort it took to radicalize somebody. Generally, rule of thumb, I'd say it's about double that. As someone who has gotten a double Trump voter, former Mormon, to vote for Kamala Harris and
Hey,
realize that they're non binary and then go to therapy. That took years of personal relationship building with that person to achieve. It's very difficult. The benefit of the snark is for our side, it's for people who are already progressives and further to the left to not mistake certain people for having a valid opinion. Even though like a broken clock's right twice a day, I don't like people talking about how Tucker Carlson is correct in his depiction of Israel because he doesn't do it for the right reason. He's doing it to bait people. And so I think people like that should be ridiculed, not because it stops the right from listening to them, it stops the left from listening to them. It's also a
is there
morale
any
boost.
is there any real danger though in somebody with progressive beliefs? I take that back. I was going to say starting to listen to Tucker Carlson. Never mind. It's always more disappointing than I'm prepared for. That absolutely could happen. No, I think
Unfortunately.
I don't think it's a matter of winning them over though. When I say we should interact with them, I don't think you're gonna make these people decent human beings. Now that might happen over the course of several years when their attentions are directed elsewhere. They might discover and learn that what they've done. But that's not our goal or job or interest. I think though they have a more and more the Venn diagram of our beliefs about what's wrong with America are overlapping with MAGA, as hard
They
as
have
that
for
is
a
to hear.
long time,
Yeah,
actually.
and
Specifically in like the case of anything economic, because the culture stuff, the culture war stuff that comes up is specifically to point them away from agreements they have
yes,
with us. Um,
absolutely yes.
I think you should be talking to them. I agree with that entirely. I have several like conservatives who flipped, or even in my community. Especially if they come to you. If they come to you, those ones can be saved. Those ones still have like some thought left in them.
And you could take the vilest bastard out there, like for example Matt Gaetz, a person who, if I am ever left alone in an alley with, I'll take the 20 years for the good it would do the earth. But you could take somebody that vile and still find things that we can not only agree on, but work together politically towards, like, for example, getting big money out of politics. It's not of interest to me that the reason he wants big money out of politics is because he's too creepy for anybody to be willing to fund. That's irrelevant as long as that guy, if back when he was in power, would have voted in a certain way.
Absolutely. Though speaking of money and politics, I have another prediction for next year that you're not
Ooh,
going to
hit
like.
me. All right.
So, just for some context, in 2025, the US dollar lost about 10% of its value. I've said over a year ago that it is like a specific goal to devalue the US dollar, leading to an economic crisis, which is then going to lead to the defaulting on the loan and the debt and the cryptoification of the economy. I've recently
Hmm.
started more people bringing that, seen more people bringing that up, which is great. Would have been great a year ago if people were talking about that then. Now, I think that first off, the economic crisis is likely between like March and May of next year. The defaulting on the debt is possible to coincide with that time. I think that
Ooh.
that's currently more likely for 2027. Obviously, all of these predictions are relied on what I know currently today. So tomorrow that can change. But there is an absolute effort to do this. And I'd like to, for anyone who thinks this may not be possible, do you think a massive economic system change is easier to achieve in a good economy or a bad economy? Is my first question for those.
Fair. I think actually in a bad economy because you stand to lose less if you got nothing.
Yeah, if number goes up, big change could make my number go down. But if everyone's poor and someone comes up and says, I have a solution for your problem, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be grand, this is the solution, a lot more people are going to be willing to put some stock in that.
Interesting point. Then that so for predictions for 2026 or for reporting from 2026, what is the main currency in the United States in 2026? Is it the Trump coin? Are we onto the euro now? What does the US dollar get replaced
Look, I'm
by?
hoping that we get to the euro dollar for just for the laugh of it. It will be a cryptocurrency. It
Ugh.
will not be one of the ones that you are aware of already. Like it's not on the market currently. And this
Oh,
one
so it
isn't
gets
going to
invented
be,
tonight.
yes, and this one's not for a rug pull specifically. The benefit of the ultra wealthy having a crypto based economy is that unlike with fiat currency, you can't print more crypto. Once the blockchain, like there is a specific amount of crypto, and once you have that, no one else can have it. There is no
Hmm.
making more. Like 5% of the world's Bitcoin is owned by one person. And as
Hmm.
long as they don't sell that, they will never have less than 5% of the world's Bitcoin. It's just not possible. And so when you see this large economic crash and the bankruptcies of multiple companies, you're going to see the like seven very rich people buying up a lot of these industries. And then let's say they manage to implement this crypto system. They now have the whole economic system, as in
Hmm.
any money that they spend makes its way back to them. Any money that you spend makes its way up directly to them. They own all of the things. You need to, go to the hospital. Your health insurance is owned by the same guy who owns the hospital, who owns the roads, who owns the
Yeah.
restaurant down the street, who owns the electric company down the block. Um, all of that is far easier to do with cryptocurrency than it would be with a fiat currency here. And
Hmm.
it will also make them less rich. But the thing is, I need people to understand the difference between how power is more valuable than money, even to people who only value money, even to people
Yeah,
who
there's a
don't value
difference
power.
between wealth and income. If you have an income of $500,000 a year, but you own, several mansions worth $20 million each, you don't have, rich let me try that again. If you have an income of $100,000 a year and a mansion worth $20 million, you have more wealth than income and you can live off of just the wealth, just the interest you can accrue the ways you can rent out
Not to
that mansion,
mention,
etc.,
they
etc.
don't usually buy that with real money anyway. The rich primarily take loans
Yeah.
regularly and then use the collateral from their last loan on their new loan and just end up never
Mhm.
paying anything.
And the loans
Beyond
that
that,
they get are, different than the loans you and I would get. They get a loan with a 1% interest because they already have $1,000,000.
example being Elon Musk is a great one. When Doge was still a thing and Tesla stock was crashing, what Elon did is he sold Twitter to XAI, his other shell company, at an $8 billion loss. Actually, sorry, no, $9 billion loss, which then he used as a tax refund, like capital gains and all of that. And then he went and took out a loan and bought Tesla stock with that loan from the money of the sale of his company to his other company and made the Tesla stock price go back up. That's how he did it. Now, like, did it hurt? Sure, but they have far more ability to like soften a blow economically. But like one other thing that I really need to get in here is that would you, if you were, I don't know, Elon Musk, would you rather have $1 trillion in a world where more and more billionaires are like coming into existence every day, or would you rather have $10 billion where nobody in the world will ever be a millionaire ever again?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'd take I mean, if I were Musk and I didn't have a soul as he doesn't, I would do the 10,000,000,000 because by comparison, I have more money.
Mm-hmm. And you'll never lose it in that case.
Yeah.
So that is a very, very worrying situation that is very likely to succeed in how it happens because it is going to coincide with a global economic crisis. Um, as well as there's a reason why I don't think that the full scope happens till 2027, and that
Why
relates
is that?
to my predictions on Europe, which nobody will believe until they see it with their own eyes. But Europe has already fallen. They bent the knee to our national security strategy. It's been agreed upon behind closed doors. The UK is going to really wait until their election before they do their main flip. The AFD in Germany is going to slow roll it until it happens all at once. I mean, Italy's already run by Mussolini's party. The National
Hmm.
Rally in France is gonna stay relatively quiet until the AFD starts making more of a fuss, and they're going to have a nice little friendship. And this comes directly from the United States threatening to interfere in their elections and possibly even assist Russia in annexing European territory
I
in that
mean,
national security
yeah,
strategy.
but between Russia, Israel, and the United States, we have got 3 major actors on the world stage who are just deciding we're going back to barbarian times. And it's just up to China now, if we're doing it in all corners of the earth. Uh,
Unfortunately, I would have to push back on that and say that China is fully aware and involved. They're just the smartest at being aware and involved. For example, I mentioned McKinsey and Company earlier, the consultancy firm that is responsible for things like the subprime mortgage crisis,
mm,
Enron, climate change propaganda. Like they're the ones that built the script for the fossil fuel companies, the anti-science, all of that is on McKinsey. Now, McKinsey, an American company, is currently also contracted by the Chinese Communist Party to consult them on how to beat America in a war. Has been for a couple years now. Um, that tends to be through
Thanks,
business speak.
McKinsey.
Yeah, yeah, you can thank them for a lot of horrible things. You can thank them for the Patriot Act. You can like, yeah,
But
but
to clarify, I just meant, uh, Russia invaded Ukraine without any reason. Israel invaded Palestine based on 2003 era reasoning. The US invaded, the Southern Hemisphere generally, I guess, based on but specifically Venezuela, based on, like, 1980s
it
excuses
will
we used to
continue
give.
from Venezuela on. It's not just
Yeah,
based on that. We know why we're doing
but China
Venezuela
to Taiwan.
specifically, even before like the fact that we actually really need their oil now. We didn't at the start of this, and that's because OPEC, the Saudis and all of them, are currently driving the price of oil to the dirt to get rid of American natural gas and oil companies as competition. You're going to see a lot of oil and natural gas companies go bankrupt next year in the U.S. That's why your gas prices are so cheap right now. It's because OPEC is flooding the market with cheap gas. Um, but it's not just like the. Hold on, let me backtrack just a little bit. It's
Okay.
Venezuela is particularly funny because before we started launching those drone strikes, the Pentagon put out a notice saying we didn't want to enter into a war with China, Russia, and Iran at the same time. And so we announced that we would be shifting our focus towards the Western Hemisphere instead of trying to do the world police stuff in the Pacific and in Europe. That is us saying we're too poor for this. We can't afford it. We literally can't, by the way. For example, like China has been blockading Taiwan for a couple days doing their live fire drills. If they were to maintain that blockade, the chances of America running that blockade, in my opinion, are less than 10%.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We just announced new shipbuilding program with the first ship slated to be finished by 2050. Who are our main producers of ships? Like, who are the two countries that help us the most with shipbuilding right now? South Korea and Japan. If
Mm.
we enter a war with China, South
The
Korea and
irony.
Japan ain't building us ships. We lose one ship, we can't replace it. China can build a ship a day.
Mm.
So
I'm
we're not
less
going to help them.
concerned with the conflicts between these giants than I am with what these giants are going to do to their neighbors.
It's
And I
carving
think
up
that,
the world,
yeah,
multipolarism stuff.
that we are all agreeing by our silence to let the world slip back into savagery. And by our silence, I mean like the fact that Trump isn't under arrest right now. He ought to be. And
We
on
did
that
say it
note,
was going to be socialism or barbarism.
yeah, absolutely. On that note, in your opinion, what does nonviolent revolution look like? And I can give you an example of what I'm talking about. I say revolution, I mean an utter change in the way this country behaves. So, by nonviolent revolution, I am thinking, for example, an utter overhaul of the courts, replacing all of the criminal president's appointees simply because we can't pretend like these are regular appointees. They're not.
Unfortunately, I think the law in the US is dead and doesn't exist, and you're not going to change that until after you gain power again. Unfortunately, like right now, the only thing holding any semblance of law together is local and state law, where that still
Mm.
does exist, but federal law just plain doesn't. Not for you. It exists how to be used against you. But I do have a very good answer to your question, and it
Mm.
is historically the most successful tactic that you can take. And this is by building the systems that exist within the system, the institutions, the structures, the things that you engage with every day that exist within the system that we live under, which I would now call neo-feudalism over capitalism, outside of their general structure, like not engaging with the police department, but building your own local police department. I say this regularly to my chat in that you should go and talk to your neighbors. Create a group chat where like everyone has a PDF file where their address is listed, and this chat is designated as functionally any message in this chat is you calling 911. Come to my house, help me now.
Mm.
You can do this with lots of different
But is that
existing
revolution?
structure. It
You're
is
that's just
because
people eking out an existence out of the view of the government. But that's not, in my
it
opinion, revolution.
leads to the revolution
Mm.
historically most successfully because the revolution needs to be about liberation from the bottom up. That is what the revolution is to me. It's the liberation of all people from the bottom up. Positive change never comes from the top down. Almost never, generally. This system, when employed, results in a standard of living increase for the people who are engaging in it, which then pulls in further members of the community. Also, it is about engagement and investment in your community. The system that I would like to build is one based off cooperative engagement. What benefits the individual benefits the community. Whereas, like, you can think of in the winter when it's very, very cold, electricity prices have gone up. They're continuing to go up. You can blame AI for that one. Let's say, you don't want to freeze to death in your house. Maybe you talk to 3 of your neighbors who are, friendly with you, and you designate one person's house to spend that day in, and only one person has to pay the electricity bill for that day for everybody
Hmm.
involved. And then you go to the next person's house on Tuesday. Monday we're at Jack's house, Tuesday we're at Sally's house, and you cycle that. It's about working together. It's pooling that money together so that you can use as little of it as you possibly can and spare as much money as you can for things that you still need to buy within the framework of the neo-feudalist system. You can't just pull the plug on it. It's going to take time to build to that, and it's going to take evidence for other people to join it. But if you are doing this and all of you are having a great time, you're hanging out at one person's house, you're having lovely family gatherings, friends, you're enjoying yourself, you're building a fire out back some days when it's not that cold. Even like when you don't need to do that, you end up doing it. Then the neighbors who are not engaged in it, they're going to feel left out. Y'all are having great fun. They're invited. Like, you make it clear that they're invited regularly. They're going to show up one day, and then they're going to start doing that. And then they're going to go tell their cousin who lives 2 towns over, and they're going to start doing that. And then they start doing that to the point where, like, let's say you bought a plot of land in your local community to grow food with a couple other people, and you're growing specific kinds of food. Let's say someone's cousin got the same idea from you guys and implemented that in their community, and they're growing a different kind of food. Now you can have a trade network
I like
for
all this, but I got to interrupt because it sounds like a years long process for a decades long process for a thing that we have maybe a couple of years to accomplish.
no one has gotten this far into fascism without being generationally fucked. In my opinion, the best we can hope for is to soft landing as much as possible to like maintain something to get rebuilt later. But I don't think like the actual process of rebuilding is going to start, or like assuming everything continues on the way it's going. There's 2 options here. One is we end this week, which we could do. It's just not going to happen. And 2 is this goes on for several generations. And if you manage to live long enough to have grandkids, your grandkids are probably going to be the ones who have to fix this. It's genuinely that bad. Like, we're already at past Anne Frank levels.
Oh, we are not past Anne Frank levels. We are not even near
They
Anne
are
Frank
going
levels.
door to door, and there are people hiding in their neighbors' houses. There are little children hiding from ICE in the basement and attic of their
I
neighbor's house, writing a
appreciate that
diary
you're
right now.
emphasizing the seriousness of this, but nobody will ever take us seriously again if we
I
say
know.
that.
You're never going to see it because you only see them on their best behavior. But, I mean, I've
No,
shown videos on.
there's 6 million people that were killed intentionally, whereas now
Hmm,
we have a couple of hundred deaths.
Stephen Miller said if
I
it was up to
grant what you're
him,
saying.
there'd be 150 million people left in this country, and they would all
Oh,
look like him.
yeah, I'm not saying we're not headed there, but in terms of measuring
We're not
where we
stopping it.
currently are,
We're not
I
stopping it. And to be fair, we don't know how many people have died. We know that there are deaths in ICE custody regularly. We know that there are people missing. I still have yet to see any like main detention center where they're housing like women. I keep being shown like clips of
yeah,
men. I still haven't seen any like real video of like women broadly
what's
being
happening to
detained.
those women?
Well, I mean, I would assume the sex
I
traffickers are doing sex
yeah,
trafficking.
I'm assuming they are sold in some capacity. It's insane, but they're going to private prisons, so we know by default they're being sold. It's just, oi.
I mean,
I
now we're
do
just selling
think
people to international countries for labor. Like we're just doing the international slave trade now.
I will
Again,
offer a bit of hope, and admittedly, I'm talking to you from the past, so I know 16 hours less than you do. But my hope is that the United States has the means to change itself built into its founding documents. In this last decade, we have had s- displayed for us exactly what's wrong with America. And I'm hoping that in the brief breath of when we emerge from whatever happens with MAGA, I am hoping that we get a radical enough group of leftists or people who simply mutually agree that the oligarchs are the problem, that we can get agreement to overhaul this thing, including getting big money out of politics and packing the courts or just doing away with the Supreme Courts. But
there are
things that drastic.
I agree. I think there's two things you can personally all employ to assist in this. Now, one of them is going to be harder than the other, but some people need to start doing it, and that's the thing. The reason that this hasn't happened, we haven't had people stand up and do what needs to be done, is because they're all waiting for someone to be first, and that's going to be you need to stop going to work. You need to like be showing up day after day after day after day and
General strike.
like sacrifice. Like you need to be willing to lose your house, your job, your freedom, the rights that you have. Your 5 day work week, your 9 to 5, that was paid for by the blood of thousands of people fighting to earn those rights.
In
Freedom
Tennessee Hills,
is
yep.
earned. Yeah. The second thing you can do is you can join the SRA. Now, the SRA is the Socialist Rifle Association. It is a non political 501c4 nonprofit. They focus in self defense and community building. They are a non political group. You can't talk about politics here, so don't get confused by the name Socialist Rifle Association. But they do have self-defense classes that they will teach pretty much anybody. The membership is about $5 a month or like $34 a year. It is the group that I highly recommend you to join. But if you don't have a chapter near you and you want to join a chapter, call them up. They might have people around your area. You might be able to start one. And if you don't want to join this group, join any group. Join any organization. I don't care if it's one I don't even like. Join any of them.
Yeah. Infiltrate. Be present, be liked, even if you are the sort of person that normally doesn't care if you're liked. Be charming.
Walk around
Learn how
your
to be charming.
town. Talk to people who hate you. Go make friends with the police. You'd be shocked at how
Yep,
easy it is.
absolutely. And
I
let
mean,
me
practice your face a little so you don't show the disdain, but
to what you were saying earlier, by the way, I wholeheartedly agree. We learned during the pandemic that we do have power and it is in our labor. I don't think you should arbitrarily stop going to work, but rather join the general strike so you can prepare to, in an organized manner, all at once, pull the rug out from under these motherfuckers. For
yeah,
example, if you can get
definitely
your
not
whole
arbitrarily.
city. Yeah. And if you want to do something right now, though, you absolutely can. Start a savings account and put a couple of bucks in there anytime you can. Because when you do go on strike, whatever is in that savings account is how long you can strike for if you have people
Speaking
that are
of,
relying on you to live.
this is really important. I can't stress this enough. Around March, April of next year of 2026, there's already like the process of building this bill right now. There's going to be a bill that gets through Congress. I think it will likely pass at this point in time, and it will make it very, 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 very difficult for you to support anyone at a protest in any way. Like, fundamentally, the end goal of this legislation that's going to draw upon things like an SPM 7 is that you giving a water bottle to somebody at a protest is a life sentence because you're going to get charged for assisting a terrorist and a either domestic or foreign terrorist organization. Also, if you live outside of the US, like I do, and talk about US politics, and you get declared as a foreign terrorist specifically, that's going to suck because there is international law that automatically activates that forces them to debank you. We saw this with the Antifa groups that we declare as terror organizations in Germany, Greece, and Italy recently, where all of them are now no longer able to access their funds, use a bank. Technically, it is a crime for them to go and buy food at McDonald's. Or like it's a crime, like it's a very serious crime. So I would highly recommend, if you are someone who's very politically active, make that savings account in Monero. I know most people hate crypto. Monero is the one useful one. It is literally the crime coin. Like they're on top of that. It is the
Don't yeah.
like it's not the
Make your
crime coin.
savings
It has
account in
very
something.
real reasonable uses. It's not like one of the rug pull ones, but it's regularly used by both the wealthy and generally to
Maybe
secretly have
start
money.
making a savings account with a banking system you understand fully, you personally watching at home that you understand. Consider Monero, but make sure that whatever you're using is something you can access at the drop of a hat so that you're ready to go at the drop of a hat. But
Absolutely.
noted on Monero, I will get familiar.
You
Sad
definitely
that it's
should.
come to
But yeah,
this,
don't
but
just like throw all your money into something you don't know how to understand. Like you need that stuff. Be saving. So that is important.
you know, I might have wished for more interesting adversaries, but I cannot imagine going through this without the excellent level of companions we have. The allies are fantastic in this era. Thank
I
you
have
so
to
much
say,
for
it
joining.
is fantastic to have like competent allies when we're looking at these
Yeah.
idiots on the other end. Because like generally, broadly speaking, sure the people in charge may not be idiots, but the broad support base for them are.
Uh, I mean, when I look at Donald Trump as the great villain of my life, I feel embarrassment. Somebody out there once fought Genghis Khan. Like there's a real villain.
If it
But
makes
we
you
have
feel
this
any better,
mm,
the old school Nazis were also pathetic and weird and cringe. Like, pretty similarly. These ones are slightly worse, but the old ones are very similar.
I just can't see Trump with the double miniguns going at Blazkowicz. I couldn't take it seriously.
I can see Trump with double, like.
Fair, that's true. A couple of
Funny enough,
javelins,
he is the
absolutely.
gayest president we've ever had. I mean, he's
He's
clearly
he's
bi.
definitely. I mean, just the way. All right. Well, that's a discussion for another time. My dear, thank you for joining us and
Thank you,
telling us
thank you.
about what's in our future. Can you plug your channel for us?
Yes. You can follow me at Twitch or YouTube, youtube.com / at Visora, or twitch.tv / Visora official. And you can find my This Day show every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, Visora Down Under. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at Visora, I suppose. Although I would highly suggest you don't use Twitter. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me on. I
Well,
very much appreciate it. This was fantastic.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm not sure though. Are you familiar with a Jakes-it?
I am not.
Here's how it works. I do hope she comes back despite that. That was a lot of fun. What a gal. All right. Good luck in 2026, y'all. Survive because it will piss off the people that ought to be pissed off.